It's a wonderful evening. Second podcast already rolling out. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got something really exciting this evening for you. While we begin this, we've got none other but Natalie Kotak, all the way from the United States. She's a brilliant person into marketing. But as the tradition goes, we're going to start with a cup of chai. And that is where we call it the tea talks. Natalie, if you can help yourself.
Thanks so much.
That's wonderful to begin with. As the story goes, and I reiterate, this business began with a cup of tea. So there were a couple of friends, we got together, we had a cup of chai. Some encouraged us, some did not, but the chai remains constant. So we kept it tea talks. So this is going to be one of the most brilliant podcasts where I'm meeting someone from the industry. Can you just give us a little background about yourself, Natalie?
Absolutely. It's great to be here. And when I shifted to Pune, that got me into the industry, both with the Times of India and also with a small business with a group of women entrepreneurs that was based here in Pune. And through their encouragement, began a business where I could work with other women entrepreneurs, building out their marketing schemes around how to expand their businesses and their reach. Then from there, I moved back to the US, but that passion for connecting people really continued and just kept looking for opportunities, and less about the size of the business, but more about the passion and the values, and looking to connect with people that wanted to solve problems that matter. And I think that's what drives my heart with communications marketing. It's really about bringing people together to solve a challenge or address a problem that matters. And that's what brings people together. You see that whether it's finding great housing opportunities and putting marketing out there, advertisements, what do they speak to? They speak to what people really want. Right. You know, they want their families to be comfortable, you know, whether that or if you're looking at food or a product, everything is about how do we close the gap from where we are and where we want to be. So Excellent. I've been doing that for about a little over 20 years now, and have seen those values, those truths hold true across cultures, across the globe.
Wow.
And it's what really excites me about this industry.
Excellent. Bringing to the next question, what's on my mind is, and this podcast basically interacts with the youth as well as it interacts with the upcoming entrepreneurs. We sitting in India, we have a slight expectation when it comes to the United States, when it comes to even marketing and branding, being other fields also. Nonetheless, India is also extremely competitive. Looking at AI as the new phase for branding and marketing, how do you see this evolve in the place that you work, and how do you see the industry growing around you?
That demands another sip of tea.
Wonderful. Here we go.
Well, as everyone in this field, and really anyone that's opening up their computer, their smartphone, is aware, AI has changed the way we do things. It's really moved how we engage information from something that is more personal to something that is almost instantaneously available. And so in marketing, but really in anything we do, AI has changed how people engage information around us. It's sped up our expectations. So that demand that we should have answers instantaneously has pushed us beyond a value for truth, you could say. Because AI, while it makes so many things accessible, it also speeds beyond that integrity aspect of you don't necessarily know if it's true or not. That's why if you're in design, you put in a picture request and your person may have 3 hands. They might have 12 fingers, but you have a picture that says exactly what you ask for, but it's going to put it together in a way that goes quickly more than accurately. And so in that sense, in our industry, and, you know, one caution I would give to any, you know, growing entrepreneur, someone using it, AI can be a tremendously powerful engine. It allows you to multitask in ways we've never been able to before. But you have to maintain hold on to those reins, because you can't fully trust its accuracy. And so you have to then be the counterweight to that speed to create something that holds integrity for your business or for your communication.
Right. So if I may ask, where people are really figuring it out as of now, are they in the right place, and is AI going to be substituting humans? I think you've kind of answered it, that humans are needed over a period of time. And what would be the other side where AI is used in today's business that you're working in or today's work that you're doing? How effective is it?
One of the things that I love using AI for is generating great questions. So much about everyday life and what we do is about asking the right questions. And with AI, you can just type into a generator, what are great questions about, and fill in a topic, or what are questions people are asking about? Because AI lets you comb through tremendous amounts of data quickly and effectively. And so using it to do that, you could say that long work or that, desk work, that's a place where it can really help us as humans to really invest our minds and our thoughts and our creativity to then take that information and invest it and apply it. So I think that's one area that I see it being tremendously effective, is helping us ask better questions.
Wow. Natalie, with your experience while you've worked in India for so many years and now you're also working in the United States, what do you think is the key thing that we should take away that is really coming up new internationally and something that you can advise the new gen to grow up into?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, something that holds true internationally, wherever you are, is really about, we think about branding and we often go to the design or the color or the effectiveness and, what does that pop? But really branding is about, setting an expectation and a communication. Who are you? And this idea of identity, if we can engage identity as our driving engine, who we are at our core, and that brand be something that provokes thought and helps people remember. In effect, we use this term brand. I'm based in Texas now, and we have a whole industry that uses branding, in a very literal sense.
Right.
But, this idea of branding, it's searing an expectation into the mind. Right. And so when you build into your brand more than colorful artwork or more, not in place of, but more than, to where your values are communicated so that your brand tells a story, that invites people to join that story. Right. And that's something that you can't make up with great artwork. Great artwork is good. Clever, meaning, words and all, they're good. But a story that really speaks to your identity, an identity that you're committed to, that you're invested in, that is something that will work internationally. That's something that will work from every person, because it's a story that you are offering to each person of who you are and who they can expect you to be as a company, as a business, as an organization. And that's something that I share with everyone I work with, is what is your story? And if you don't know your story, that's where you need to start. And, I've seen this in so many organizations and businesses, but one that really stands out in the US. I don't know if you've heard of Chick-fil-A. I don't think we have it here.
You don't have it yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But maybe soon. But Chick-fil-A, they began their business with a focus on, what their values were, that idea of integrity, and a focus on, their Christian values. They said, we are going to work on Sundays. We want to take that Sabbath. Those things that were part of their belief system, their values. They said, we're not just going to hold this as our own personal thing. We're going to invest that. We're going to paint it into our story. And so they built an organization around the idea of apprenticeship and discipleship and responsibility and, really bringing people through a process. So it's more than just a product. It's more than just a sandwich. Really, it's become a phenomenon, and that's what they're known for, of helping people work from, the very first beginning job all the way through management, of investing back into community and into projects that really reflect their values. And they haven't neglected their product. Their products, they've created something that is ethical, that's, good for that community, and that's very tasty too.
Healthy also.
And so in that sense, they've applied that idea of who are we at our core, and they've taken that and said, okay, now we're going to build a whole story around who we are. And it's that idea of identity that I think holds true in branding, that if you skip that step, you're going to miss the real heart, the value that can be there. And that's what makes brands come alive. Because now I know who I'm going to be dealing with. not just, it's a good picture, right? So a brand should go beyond the imagery. It should evoke an expectation. And you want that expectation to be a good one.
Right. So having an expectation, but if not fulfilled, I think is the debacle of a brand. So we can be real good faces to create a brand new brand, put it out in the market, but I think the brand also needs to fulfill the promises, what you're saying.
Absolutely. It all comes back to integrity, that singular identity of I am who I say that I am. And as a business, you expand that responsibility. You take on a greater responsibility beyond just yourself to what you're offering as an organization. Can you keep what you've promised and even over-deliver?
Wow. Excellent. So one other thing that I would like to ask you, while you've traveled so much and you've seen different states altogether, it's not just Maharashtra, you've traveled UP, the other places. What do you think is the cultural difference? Does cultural difference make an impact to marketing? And how does it work?
Wow. Well, culture absolutely makes a difference. I think anyone in marketing would jump up and say, absolutely, you can't say it doesn't make a difference, but it's the application. Really, culture is like a lens. I see you're wearing specs and, depending on the numbers, it'll change your perception of your reality. And culture is like that itself. So whatever lens is in front of you, those values, those norms, if you violate those values and norms, your marketing won't be effective. In fact, it will actually push your audience away.
Right.
And so as I've worked with different organizations, different communities of, entrepreneurs, one thing I challenge them is just because something is working in the US, don't just translate the words and put it out in your audience, because this is designed for your cultural lens. And if we move outside of that cultural lens, it may not be effective. It doesn't speak to the things that speak to the heart of of who you're trying to communicate with. And so that's really important, that you evaluate what matters to the people that you're looking to reach.
Wow. Yes. Just replicating what is happening somewhere which is doing good does not mean it works for your own city or your own space that you're thinking about.
It doesn't speak to the heart in the same way. And so good marketing looks at who you're trying to engage to take that idea to the next step or that product into the marketplace.
So which is your favorite social media handle, which you really use much? And otherwise, what do you think, which is going to be the most viral handle across?
I think LinkedIn is really growing. It's an area that, if you look at horse racing, you've always got that, come from the back. And I think LinkedIn was one that wasn't taken as seriously, but, looking forward, it's one that's really coming into place as a driver in our industry.
Wow. Yes, it's no more just connecting job, it's networking. It's growing the network, it's adding to your business, and I think it's creating a wonderful platform for people to connect professionally and still giving that boundary to not overpass each other. I take that word for advice while we as a organization are handling digital for so many clients, and I see the clients' difference. Now they are also wanting towards to skew a lot more of creatives towards LinkedIn altogether. So yes, people are taking it seriously, if I may say. One of the most toughest questions that while I ask them, I don't know how I imply it to myself. What's your take on work-life balance? Being in a field like marketing where you need to be on the toe, things change, and you have to be the fastest on that. What's your take?
I think work-life balance is a challenge for everyone in every field. We have a tendency to fill as much as we can into the space we have without realizing that, there are other needs in that space. Being back in India, you drive past the vegetable carts and they have those scales. And we use this term work-life balance, but it may be a misnomer because you can put more and more vegetables on one side of the scale. And the reality is you just have to put a heavier weight on the other side. So we can create this idea of balance, but that balance may not be healthy. So I like to think of it in terms of work-life investment. If you have one life, 24 hours in a day, how will you invest that time? What will you give towards each of those goals? And looking at it as a full picture, but a finite, picture of what do you have to give and what are the most important things, starting with the things that are absolutely non-negotiables, and then working from there to say, what is the life I want to live? It goes back to the story you're trying to tell. What is that investment you want those 24 hours to tell? And from there, building towards that, shaping that, using, your own responsibility to build towards that space. And I found that that's helpful for me in thinking of, I have 24 hours, how will I invest them for the strongest return?
Such a different take, using actually a weight balance on your mind, and the weight is really heavy if you're just loading up yourself. I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it. So in a week, how many hours do you really work?
Well, I try to make time for chai, for sure.
Wonderful.
But that's actually been a challenge for me. I was at one point going, between 60 and 70 hours a week. And it was really a struggle for my family, for my kids. Again, if you think of it as that scale, you can add more to one side, but then you have to add more to the other. And so it eventually takes away from your well-being. And that's what I experienced. And so from there, I worked with my team and said, how can we build something? This isn't the story I want my life to tell. This isn't what I want my kids to see and emulate. Can we get just as good results by building in balance and seeing the effectiveness? Like, will we become more effective if we actually create more, room for renewal and rejuvenation? And, I've seen a lot of other organizations doing the same, whether they're even moving to a 4-day work week and then that 5th day they work on community building or even just rest. Recognizing that our bodies weren't built with infinite resources, that we do need time for renewal. And we've actually seen creativity thrive, as on my team, we've tried to build more time for recovery, for renewal, even after big projects, saying, okay, what will be the recovery time that we need if we're all going to give 200%, but we're going to put a stop to it. And then when it finishes, how will we celebrate? How will we create that counterbalance? And then how will we renew to be ready for the next challenge?
Wonderful. That's something for us to learn about.
It's a scary thing, actually. It can be a little bit terrifying because you think that if you just keep putting more and more in, you'll get more and more returns.
Yeah.
But at some point, you do begin to wear things down, and you have to find that sweet spot of, this actually increases our effectiveness versus, just going and going and going. But then we find that our returns diminish because that balance is
over
there.
A period of time, it can hurt. Yes, you're right.
So how do, and in a creative sphere, such as marketing, you are, it's a soul level thing. It comes from within. And so if you're worn down, what comes, from that creative space is not going to be as effective. At least that's what we found. And in talking with others, that is the great challenge for creatives, is finding that space. And that's why I like to think of it as, stop trying to balance. You'll just add more to each side, but start thinking of it as investment.
Wonderful. I loved it. Learning for me, actually. More than anything else.
This is a work in progress.
Big time work in progress. Takes me to that one last part to understand, whilst there are so many youngsters wanting to get into this field of marketing and branding, do you think it's really necessary to go through the entire education plan? Or do you think vocational education can also bring you to that level and then you can start off? What's your take on it?
I would say yes.
Wow.
To both. It's something that, there is a science to communication. Anyone that has gone through that whole program would tell you, yeah, these things are true. They can be depended on. But just like, as children, you watch them, they're discovering the science of things through what they experience. And through experience or through, that rote training, they'll lead you to that same place, but they're going to give different angles. And I think, the best of both worlds is if you can create a team, not trying to do it by yourself, but find where you're strong and where you're weak. And if you focus more on that, traditional training, going through the full track, by all means, take that. On the other hand, if that is going to take away the creativity and you say, the vocational realm is really going to build that, take that, but connect with people that fill in the gaps that are in your talent. I think one of the most valuable things you can do is network and connect to see where you're strong, to see where you're weak, especially as a young entrepreneur. look at where you'll find people that will help you grow, that will help you ask the questions that you don't naturally come to.
Right.
And that will push you really to be better at what you do, and that together you will create things that you couldn't do. Each person is so unique. And I think in that sense, finding people that connect in that unique space to create things that are exponentially stronger than anything you could create alone, that's the power of communication, no?
Right. I think I resound with you, because when we started Rapture as a complete organization, we were a couple of us. Now it's a full exploded team. And this is where we take, the basic insights from everyone. So we are into concepts, we are into design, but somebody from operations can give you a good idea. Someone from another sales department can give you another idea. So it's basically involving everyone to get a good generation of thought processes, putting it together. I think that gives you a big answer. One last question.
Sure.
While you sip the chai, you've been traveling around India for more than 2 weeks, if I'm not wrong. Which is that one brand which has impacted you? I'm sorry, this question is slightly out of the syllabus.
Absolutely, no. It's
Yeah. And which brand that has impacted you, and what are things that I think you have learned out of the brand?
That is a great question. And I think from the perspective of branding, like I said before, it's more than just a picture, it's what it evokes.
Right.
And I think something that I have seen, it's been, I think I told you, it's been more than 5 years since my last visit to India. And, India has, as a whole, from the government perspective, has been pushing this idea of incredible India and a modernized, country, and trying to show that difference. And I think something that really has stood out, I took my kids to see the Taj Mahal for the first time. And, 20 years ago, I visited that place, and today you would not recognize the road that you drive down. Because now it's been, there's lights, there's, the stalls have been replaced with these buildings and all. And it's now you don't feel that you're in the middle of, a very small town. Now you feel that it's all very controlled, and, they have the electric cars and everything that are going down the lane up to the monument. And in that sense, this doesn't answer your question directly, but it's that sense of, if I go today for the first time, I'm going to experience something so different. And I think in that sense, the government has done a really impressive job of creating what they say they want to be. They've done that. And, in another area, I'm trying to think, you see a lot of, in these tourism spaces, people saying this, you look at their advertisements, they're showing pictures of families together, of, doing things together. I think in that sense, really seeing India itself grappling with this, some of the challenges of saying we are a nation with a long history, but we also want to be seen as a modern country with tremendous potential in the business and entrepreneurial field. And, I saw that as I went through Delhi, as I went, even in Agra, really seeing that. I think that was a strong example of not just saying it, but actually seeing results on the ground.
Wow.
Steps.
I think I need to add there's kudos to the incredible India team. I think there is a campaign manager, and I hope this reel reaches out to you. You've done a wonderful job. It's impacted people. And I'm sure internationally people are following whatever India is doing. So soon you're going to see a lot of events done by Maharashtra as a state altogether. And hopefully Rapture is going to be a part of everything that you see across. It's been a great conversation with you. I'll leave you with one last question. What was that one thing that you will advise the youngsters, the young entrepreneurs, and while they take up this field, what should they concentrate at? Because we need to know what's going to be happening in the next 5 years.
If any of us had, that inside look of what will happen in the next 5 years, that would make a difference. But I think one thing you can see, we've talked about AI, we've talked about internationalization, and I think just recognizing that we don't stand on, in a box. Everything we have, that we're putting out there is going to become globalized. It will be seen on a stage that is far more global than you've ever imagined before. And so what you do is not just, it's not just for your immediate audience, but if you think about your work as an investment on a global scale, everything you do makes a difference. And seeing it as an investment, as a stewardship even, that is something that you're giving to the next generation. It doesn't end with you. And I think that's something that helps you keep yourself honest in that space of, is it good enough, or is this what I want to leave, as a mark that other people will build upon in the next generation? That helps you really challenge yourself. And if you continue to challenge yourself in that space, that as we become more connected is going to take this next generation to heights that we've never been able to achieve in the past.
Wow. That's such a wonderful word of advice. And I think this conversation is so important for the youngsters to now look up to the next level. I know they're going through a lot of competition mentally, physically, wherever they are. But yes, this field being so big, locally, internationally, nationally, altogether, we have a lot of scope. We have a lot of jobs in here. We have a lot of business ideas in here. Once upon a time, you would not be paid for ideas in India, as a matter of fact. But now you can get a specialized concept fee. So all those who are listening to me, please charge that also. So you can get a concept fee while your idea is good. Execution can be another portfolio altogether. But it's been a great evening, Natalie, for you to be joining us. At such a short notice, we thank you. And we look forward to connecting with you, staying in touch with you, and whatever we can connect over a period of time. Thank you. Have a great day.